The AI bubble, as we like to say, hasn't actually popped just yet. Anthropic hasn't launched their IPO yet. OpenAI also hasn't launched their IPO yet. We've seen, of course, uh, SpaceX do their IPO. It's been pretty volatile. We'll definitely get to that and take a look at this chart. What is the trend? It's a little too early to say, but it's essentially down at this point. This is a hyperliquid chart, hyperliquid USDC, or SpaceX on that side. But we can see that the AI world is still a bit turbulent, which is totally fine. It's burgeoning, and there's so much more to come from this world. But we can clearly see that we're not quite done yet with AI. But there's already talk about how it's going to be, it's bumpier. What's going to happen? SpaceX hasn't been looking so good. Stocks have been moving up in a beautiful way. In some cases, all time highs for some of these stocks, all time highs, and yet still climbing. But we're seeing some instability, insecurity with AI and regulations, whether it be for entertainment or for coding, national security, you name it. There's a lot going on. But at the same time, AI, to my view, is far from done. But what that means, and when I say far from done, it just means that there's still liquidity to go around for AI. Perhaps it's going to come from this stock or the other stock and go into AI. But we as you know, we could in fact see something like Anthropic come out or OpenAI launch and price does exactly what SpaceX has done. But my view, this is where things change, and this is where it's a benefit to you and I who are excited about digital assets. You see, we have all been there. I know what it feels like to say, hey, I'm going to sell the top or buy the bottom. And when that point hits, you're kind of reluctant to actually do it. Well, I'll show you what I've been looking at on this side. I've got a lot of indicators here, but I just want to show you right there, kind of squeeze it all together. So if you were part of my community at the time, it was a Telegram community. I'll let you guys know that December 15th of 2022 is when I would be getting into the markets for Bitcoin. Sure enough, that was the bottom of the market. We saw FTX and a bunch of other businesses crash. And unfortunately, people literally lost their lives. It was a tragic time. But we stayed focused and we watched the market and we looked for our drop levels. As you can see, we've got drop levels one, perhaps that's two, and there's a third right there. It's the same situation right now. We're looking for a third drop. This is a weekly time frame. So I want to show a couple of quick things here, right? Let's go to the daily time frame because I do believe that we are already at the top of our buy zone. I had another liquidity zone here that has been recently deleted simply because we've already eaten up that liquidity. Now, I'm anticipating another drop down into the 30 to the 40s, 50s and 40s essentially. I wouldn't be surprised. But what we want ideally, well, if the market's going to stay bullish, is we want to make sure that price doesn't go below these wicks here that are created on September 6th, 2024, and August 5th, 2024. So that month, those 30 or 30 some odd days, that's where we ideally want price to stay if we're going to actually flip bullish. But once we flip, or if we flip and go down even further, let's just say we come down here and we go like this, well, then yeah, I'm looking at targets significantly lower. Now, that could be anywhere up to here. That could be all the way down here. Do I expect $30,000 Bitcoin? No. Is it possible? Yeah. Especially if we're looking at the greatest wealth transfer of all. Why wouldn't the price drop dramatically if this is really the time to transfer wealth in a major way? You guys let me know your thoughts on that. But I understand a lot of people find that maybe the problem is that I just don't have the right timing. Maybe the problem is that, look, I understand. Your problem is not that you don't know the right time to buy. The problem that you've been facing all this time is not also just who you've been looking at, it's the way in which you're finding your positions. See, we're not looking at these arbitrary dates or times or news events that are supposed to just make everything better and easy to trade. The Clarity Act is launching and it's going to go get approved and suddenly the market's going to flip. The Clarity Act might hit at the exact time that the level hits, right? But in actuality, what's more likely to be the case is that, yeah, like essentially it hits right at the right timing. It's not so much a matter of the fact that it hit and suddenly the market flips bullish. No, it's all about the pattern. So we're looking for harsh drops, strong candles to go push price down, like we saw here, and strong like here. But we've already seen that this wick has been totally reclaimed. The problem, the real problem, is to understand liquidity. That is the real concern. It's not about the timing so much. It is, of course, about the timing, but the pattern is super important. The level is what's the most important in a sense, simply due to the fact that there is liquidity and the market maker has a job. Let's not forget that a market maker is performing its duty and has to be positive, has to win. So it has to essentially return to liquidity levels to extract a little bit more. That's just the reality. Whether we reclaim all of the liquidity or not, it depends. But we already had liquidity here. If you watch previous videos and if you're in the community, you'll know that there were liquidity levels here that we recently deleted because price totally ate through that liquidity. Now we have a little bit more liquidity, right? So focus on liquidity levels, right? We need the pattern to look really sharp down is what we're looking for. That's why I've got alerts here. And every time a new alert comes, I'll drop it down a little bit further. If that one gets triggered, then I'm dropping it down a little bit further, and so forth. We just go down bit by bit until we actually get the levels that we're looking for. So the pattern's super important. Of course, the timing is super important as well, right? And that's why the whole Clarity Act in news, we often say that news is the excuse to move price. It doesn't necessarily mean that bullish news in a bull market makes price go up or bearish news in a bear market makes price go down. You could have bullish news in a bear market and price does absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter. If price doesn't go down anymore, it doesn't go up. We could be in a super strong raging bull market and there's a crazy amount of negative information. Price could drop to an actual level that's already there on the chart and then suddenly continue to take off. So check out CoinWins, of course. The link is in the description. You'll see that we've got a lot of information about what we're looking for, ways that you can essentially find entries in a real technical sense that is actually repeatable, and it's a system that is predictable, and it's based not on feelings or emotions or timing in the sense of yes and no, because we have the moon signals on as well, which is a pretty deep indicator that does take time to actually populate with more information because it deals with moon phases, moon cycles. So that might not reflect directly on your chart today, but we use that to look at kind of the grander trend overall. We have levels that are directly related to exact price points, and of course we look at open interest to understand where the leverage is. And the reason why we're able to do this for something like Bitcoin, again, the problem is not that you just, you don't know how to find the entry or you didn't put a stop loss in the right position. The problem is that you're looking at the chart in the wrong sense. This is an asset that is traded and controlled, or some people may say manipulated, by the market maker. The market maker is doing this as a job. So we need to respect the market maker's job. They come to work with a uniform, they have a protocol. So all we need to do is understand where the market maker took price in the past to understand where the market maker is likely to take price into the future. We don't guess, we simply follow exactly what the market maker has left behind week after week after week. And in this case with Bitcoin and so forth, we look at, month after month, right? And when looking for a bottom, let's just say. So keep it simple, follow a system that is actually repeatable, and you'll be able to execute majorly. So my final thoughts on this SpaceX, Anthropic IPO, OpenAI IPO, and the Bitcoin bottom. My view is simple. When the AI bubble, if we call it like that, bursts, it's likely going to bring all stocks and all risk assets down. And that is when I believe we will actually see the bottom for Bitcoin, which could be 48 weeks later, which would line up at about September 13th or so, which lines up very well with PPI, CPI, and that type of stuff at that point in time in the month. Again, pattern, the timing, and the levels. I thank you for checking this one out. Hit the link in the description and actually sign up for CoinWins and see what we're doing on that side and drop your feedback. All the best. Let's win together. Take it easy.